I meant this clap. Welcome to Facebook Talks. This is a town hall meeting with Arun Jaitley, the BJP candidate for Amritsar. This is an opportunity for the people of Amritsar to ask questions of their candidate, to get clarifications on major issues that are affecting the state and their city. And Arun Jaitley has been examining and looking at these issues and campaigning for a long time now. He still has almost a month, 3 weeks to go before voting day, which is April 30th. So I will start with the questions and then we'll take it to the audience. Arun, what do you think, what do you believe are the major issues facing Amritsar today?
Well, Amritsar is a city which has a lot of buoyancy about it. It's a city which was created around religion in one sense. The Darbar Sahib came up earlier, and then the city was built around it. So one of the most important pilgrim centers anywhere in the world. And then you had a lot of history around this city. So there are several parts of the city where you have history written on almost every corner. This was also a trading center of North India. And it was a trading center even 100 years ago. This was also an industrial center. You had a large number of industries, textiles, agricultural implements, and so on. Now, a series of developments took place where you had wars, so Amritsar bore the brunt. You had domestic insurgency, Amritsar bore the brunt. But it's a city which has a lot of resilience. And the city has shown resilience. Now, it deserves to do much better. And therefore, it's a city which needs a huge improvement in infrastructure. Some improvement has taken place, but you need a lot more.
Now, for example, you mentioned the Golden Temple. Trying to get in and out of there, the congestion, the almost not being able to pay your respects in a clean, happy surrounding. There is a lot of traffic, a lot of garbage thrown around. What would you do to improve that area?
I'll tell you what, some problems don't have an easy solution. It's located there, it has to remain there. The city was built around it, and it was an old city which was built around it. Therefore, some element of congestion would remain. Old cities anywhere in the world, to decongest them today is not difficult. That will mean uprooting a lot of people. Now, what you need to do is the city needs to expand. Just as around the city, the highways have come up. Around the city, the bypasses have come up. Within the city, some flyovers, one elevated road has come up. Now, these are areas you need to multiply. You need to expand this way. So, as you spread out, it becomes decongested. You can't do it by compulsion. I also believe that tourism will always remain the mainstay of the city. You have over 100,000 people coming here every day.
Does the infrastructure measure up?
No, therefore, no, it's a lot of hotels have come up, and a lot of hotels of all price segments have come up. There are sarais, there are other lodging places, there are a lot of eateries. You have to work two ways. You have to improve the infrastructure. This has to become a part of the national tourism circuit. The central government has to take a part of the responsibility because states in India always have inadequate financing.
But Arun, one of the accusations that opponents have been pointing out about you is that you have a larger national picture than any understanding or solutions for a city like Amritsar. So would you, if the BJP wins, would your attention be then still in Amritsar if you are elected from here? Or would you then, as is expected, if BJP comes into power, you will be a minister of a major ministry.
Okay, even when you have a national picture, you always keep the big picture of your constituency in mind. And your ability to become a representative and get major improvements for your constituency, this in fact helps it. So I was only indicating that if you are able to support the internal infrastructure, expand the city, and I think one thing is more important, if it has 4 or 5 high points of tourism besides the Harminder Sahib, besides the Jallianwala Bagh, the Durgiana Mandir, the Wagah border, today time has come when you expand, you create 4 or 5 more centers.
Centers of?
Of tourist attraction. And there can be several centers of tourist attraction.
Such as what?
You see, why should a city of this size not have an amusement park on the outskirts? Why should a city which is known for the USP of its food not have a food street or a food village? You know, people, when the tourist comes and he has 10 options, then instead of one day, he comes, he pays his obeisance, he visits these 2 places and goes away. Now, if he is going to stay here twice the amount of time, you have actually doubled tourism. If numerically expands, then you have doubled it many-fold. Now, this is where the big picture helps. I think that's going to be a mainstay. Trading will always be a mainstay. It's a town which has a tradition of trading. And as far as trading is concerned, you now need to expand in terms of the possibility. We are on the verge of opening out the border trade more effectively. You have marginal border trade. In fact, you have illegal border trade, you have trade through the Dubai route, and the official route is inadequate. You have to shift everything there. The posts are ready, the custom posts are ready, the talks have gone on, and I think somebody needs to give it the big push.
Arun, in your campaigning, and you're doing relentless campaigning all day, are there people who come up to you and tell you, these are our problems?
They do.
What kind of, what have you encountered?
I'll tell you, the kind of problems people have, and it's a very interesting, in the absence of job opportunities, particularly around the city, a big problem in the whole region is drug addiction. From drug smuggling, it's a social problem, and many families, and when I say many, it's many families.
And they say 2/3 of Punjab's families have
I think that may be an
addict.
That may be an exaggerated figure. I don't go into the figures, but it's directly related to absence of economic activity. There are areas where access to municipal facilities, it has taken place in many areas. In some areas, it has to be expedited.
Access to what municipal?
Sewerage, water. Now,
but you know, it has been reported in many stories when people have covered Punjab, particularly related to Makbulpura and Tarantan, that after 1971, ISI discovered a document where the Pakistanis said that we are going to flood Punjab with drugs in order to make their young men into weeds that we can trample on and walk into India.
Therefore, the border vigilance has to increase. Now, this is not something which is rocket science that it will take a lot of time. If you know an area is inflicted with a social problem, it's a sabotage from within with external forces acting, then your border security is inadequate. Therefore, when you are in charge of the borders at the center, you'll have to take special care that this kind of a thing doesn't happen. Correspondingly, you'll have to act within. Now, you can't have a whole generation of unemployed people and then feel that the generation of unemployed people is not, why is it going astray? Then that's the cause it's going astray.
So unemployment, of course, is related to it.
The third area, I'll tell you.
What would you do to encourage industry to come to Amritsar?
I'll tell you, industry is more challenging. I think if you expand border trade, like tourism, that is a low-hanging fruit. That's easily achievable. I think you need skill development. And when you are speaking in terms of skill development, not a few ITIs or other skill development institutions, you'll require many more. You see,
Such as what kind of things that
you see,
would
you can do
work here?
anything from mechanical. For instance, you can have skill development in terms of multiple language training. One of the reasons that outsourcing came to the south, it came up to Gurgaon, but it didn't come here, except one unit, I am told. People need to know languages, and languages is something which is easy to grasp. And therefore, knowledge of multiple languages, you can have a large number of outsourcing centers here. So skill development can take place in many areas. Today, the youth, not only in cities, but also in adjacent villages, and many of these are very affluent villages. Therefore, that's aspirational youth. And to get aspirational youth into this kind of a skill development and putting them on a course of a career, and once this becomes the trend will catch on and catch on fast. Now, these are all areas where you have to take it directionally. And I have a feeling, if I have understood it correctly, for all this, you need some element of funds. You need to put your weight behind the constituency and extract those funds from the state or from the center.
Would you encourage, say, private enterprise to come in and start language schools like they started NIT?
Why not? You see, why not? That's obviously to be done. Everything can't be done by the state. Now, that's where economic activity, a spurt takes place. And that spurt catches on the imagination of youth.
But how do you break the nexus of the drug dealers with the police, with the politicians? It seems that everybody is involved in the drug trade.
I think, you see, we at times exaggerate. I think the entire system, from your border policing, that's the armed forces of the BSF, to your narcotic control bureau, to your state police, I think this is one area they have to be ad idem of one opinion, that you can't have a compromise on this. You can't have any official institution, whether of the central government or the state government, condoning this. And therefore, you will have to put somebody who's tough, who's no nonsense, into the control and say these kind of activities, and any kind of illegal activities.
So are you willing to be ruthless in...
Well, I think if, as far as crime areas are concerned, and drugs being a very serious crime, it has to be non-partisan, it has to be completely bipartisan, everybody must agree. And if you have somebody involved, so be it, he must pay the consequences for this.
What about the fact that many people have tried this? They have rehab centers. In fact, illegal rehab centers have started where addicts and their families are being exploited and still being kept on drugs. Is there any kind of micromanagement?
You see, that's a solution after the event has taken place, after the damage has been done. So states will run addict centers. States can support de-addiction centers. Now, that's something which comes afterwards. You need to control the family environment. You need social values being inculcated in school onwards. The consequences of this catastrophe which is taking place. I think you'll have to have a many-fold campaign, but there is no substitute for enforcement of that law and a vigilance on the border, since you rightly said a large part of it takes place from the other side.
On a national level, what would be the BJP's policy on the agrarian problems, the farmer suicides which are taking place in Punjab every day? What would you say that the BJP will do to fix that huge, huge problem?
When does a farmer commit suicide? You see, he commits
when he's
suicide.
Heavily in debt.
He's heavily in debt. The cost of cultivation and the price that he gets for cultivation is less than what he spent on it. So if the electricity costs are very high in some part of the country, or if fertilizer costs have gone up, if seeds have become more expensive, and the net yield he gets is inadequate, I think the debt trap begins. And once he gets heavily entangled in the debt trap, he finds the escapist route. And that's the story of most farmer suicides. Now, I think this whole policy of people in urban areas must realize that agricultural sector is heavily underemployed. Agriculture's contribution today to the GDP is about 15%. You have 60% of India dependent on agriculture for livelihood.
Well, a large part of Indian states depended at one time completely on Punjab's agriculture. Today, it's a shame what's happened to Punjab.
No, you see,
the soil has been eroded. It's carcinogenic. There are trains coming from Bhatinda which are called Cancer Express because the
that's
earth
because of cotton. That's because of the
pesticides.
Because of the pesticides.
So on a national level, what would the BJP do?
Let's deal in Punjab for a moment.
Okay.
You see, your basic problem is 60% of India gets a share of 15% income. That's agricultural story. So obviously there is huge underemployment. In a family where one brother should be looking after land, 4 are looking after land. Now what traditionally has happened is, world over, people from agriculture who are underemployed get absorbed in the manufacturing sector. The manufacturing sector are where there are mass jobs. Now unfortunately, the first industrial revolution missed us. In the last 20 years, these Asian tigers started this miniature industrial revolution of low-cost manufacturing. We seem to be missing that bus also. I think India has no option but at a war footing, tune our system to become a low-cost manufacturing hub. It's only then that in manufacturing we are going to create jobs. You'll have large parts of people underemployed in agriculture shifting over to manufacturing. That's the first thing you have to do. Therefore, a family will be supplemented by various incomes, agricultural, non-agricultural. Cost of agricultural inputs, I think, has to be borne in mind. So when my friends in the UPA say, we've raised the MSP, but you've also raised the fertilizer prices. After your coal spill, the electricity rates also have gone up. Therefore, if the farmer has to pay more for fertilizer, more for seeds, more for electricity, then obviously he will get a higher MSP, his profits will still be low. Now I think the whole regulation of the economy of the agricultural sector will then have to be controlled in some areas, and Punjab may be one of the examples for it. You will have to go in for crop diversification. 2 lessons of the story. I think let's look at the Madhya Pradesh story. It was a complete Bimaru state in 2003. Today, 11 years later, Madhya Pradesh is one of the first Bimaru states which has squarely come out of this Bimaru status. Its agricultural growth 2 years in a row is something like 18%.
But Punjab has gone back.
No. You see, how did they do it? Because Punjab is back because Punjab had reached its optimum level much earlier. So once you reach your optimum level, the percentage of growth is never so high because the land is not expanding. Madhya Pradesh has effectively done it. Cheaper loans to farmers. It's one state other than Gujarat which has effectively provided irrigation by intra-state, within the state, river connectivity. So you had the Malwa region of Madhya Pradesh which was completely dry. They brought water from one river 47 miles away into another river. Now you've connected the rivers and the fertility of the land has moved up.
Do you think Punjab should share its rivers?
You see, water is the mainstay. And therefore, it's a very sensitive issue. And in a state where agriculture is its pride, agriculture is its mainstay, any state, riparian state particularly, will first have to satisfy its own requirements. And at the end of the day, these are problems which have been pending and there are no easy solutions to it.
Now, in your campaign, as we've been observing it as journalists and the general public, it seems that very few issues have come up between your opponents and you, meaning on these subjects. Basically, the differences have been on who's an outsider, who speaks Punjabi better, who's really a Punjabi, who's from the state. Do you think these issues are in any way relevant?
Madhu, your question is slightly inaccurate. Throughout the campaign, I have addressed all these issues in my meetings. But to put the record straight, every morning by 10 o'clock, my statement in terms of my Facebook post is out.
But it's usually on national issues.
No. Each one of the subjects I have told to you, my vision of Amritsar, the drug problem which you've discussed with me, I have squarely written on each one of them. The media here has carried it extensively. Now we have to decide what is this election all about. My regret in this campaign only is one. I am faced with an opponent. I don't think he's capable of discussing national issues. I don't think economy is his subject. He excels in tutu meme. Now, that's not my temperament. Therefore, a mindless aggression in the form of tutu meme, I am not going to get into. Every day I continue to write both on national and state issues. I'll continue to do that. That's what the issues are going to be. Now, Amritsar, for instance, take Punjab, the trading community. I've literally instigated a debate on FDI in retail. Now, what I hear is some absurd argument which is incapable of making out an intelligent debate. But be rest assured, each one of those issues I'll take it to the logical conclusion because I know how to raise these issues.
We've been asked to speak in Hindi. तो मैं आपसे ये जो गुजरात में सिख फार्मर्स को मुश्किलें उन्हें देखी हैं, बीजेपी उसके बारे में क्या करे?
देखिए, कोई डिफिकल्टी नहीं. सबसे पहले मैं बताऊं, आज नहीं, लैंड होल्डिंग के लिए एक कानून बना था गुजरात में जब कांग्रेस पावर में थी. ये कानून कांग्रेस के जमाने का बना हुआ है. वो कानून इंप्लीमेंट होता रहा, लेकिन उस कानून के तहत किसी को निकाला नहीं गया, निकालना संभव भी नहीं है. अब ये विषय आया जब सुप्रीम कोर्ट के सामने, तो ये इशू रेज हुआ. मैंने भी चीफ मिनिस्टर से बात की, बादल साहब ने भी चीफ मिनिस्टर से बात की. उन्होंने यहां आके स्पष्ट बयान दे दिया कि किसी भी आदमी को हटाया नहीं जाएगा. तो मैं चाहूंगा कि कांग्रेस के लोग और कैप्टन साहब, जिसने ये कानून बनाया था उसकी निंदा करें. ये बनाया तो कांग्रेस ने था लॉ अपने जमाने में, तो उनको लग रहा है क्योंकि ये इंप्लीमेंट अब हो रहा है इसलिए दोष आपका है. द ओरिजिनल सिनर ऑफ दैट लॉ इज द कांग्रेस पार्टी.
पर इंप्लीमेंट भी करना पर हमारे देश में कई कानून बनते हैं.
देखिए, आज संभव नहीं है कि जो लोग 40-40, 50-50 साल से जमीन पे बैठे हैं उनको हटाना. तो वहां के चीफ मिनिस्टर ने कह दिया विल टैकल दिस इशू, और किसी को इस जमीन से हटाया नहीं जाएगा.
आप समझते हैं कि जो इश्यूज ये हैं और तीन है, ऑपरेशन ब्लू स्टार 1984 और गोधरा के 2002 की इश्यूज, इस इलेक्शन में इनकी बातचीत होनी चाहिए कि नहीं?
देखिए, इस वक्त वो रेलेवेंट नहीं है, लेकिन जो इसकी बात रेस करना चाहते हैं, मैंने तो नहीं शुरू की, ये तो कैप्टन साहब ने की. तो अगर वो खिलाफ हैं ब्लू स्टार के, तो उन लोगों से टिकट क्यों ली जो ब्लू स्टार जिन्होंने करवाया?
वो मैंने सवेरे पूछा.
He sits in the company of those. He sits in the company of those responsible for 1984 riot and says I am against them.
जब मैंने उनको ये बात पूछी, उन्होंने कहा कि 1984 में बीजेपी के भी लोग थे जिन्हें सिखों को मारा.
देखिए, इतनी इंक्वायरीज हो गई, इतने केसेस चल गए 1984 में, बीजेपी का एक आदमी नहीं ढूंढ पाए. कांग्रेस की सरकारें हैं. आज तक एक आदमी, आप दिल्ली के या कहीं के भी सिख समुदाय के लोगों से पूछ लीजिए, हमारे लोग तो उस वक्त उनको बचाने में लगे हुए थे.
एक सवाल वो उन्हें नहीं उठाया था, कैप्टन अरविंदर सिंह ने के पूछा कि ये जो आपका कैंपेन में जुड़े हुए हैं मिस्टर मखीजा, वो ड्रग्स के साथ मिले हुए हैं.
देखिए, नारकोटिक्स कंट्रोल ब्यूरो को सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट कंट्रोल करती है. ये कह देना कि जुड़े हुए हैं, ये अपने आप में सब्सटेंस नहीं है. दी एनसीबी, नारकोटिक कंट्रोल ब्यूरो, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के पास है. अमरिंदर सिंह की पार्टी की सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट है, कम से कम 16 मई तक, उसके बाद नहीं होगी. तो अगर कोई अकाली दल का लीडर उसके साथ जुड़ा हुआ है, तो निश्चित रूप से
अभी कार्रवाई करनी चाहिए।
अभी कार्रवाई कर लें, 16 से पहले कर लें,